where the type mark is empty, for whatever reason, I normally just delete that row. It means that there probably was an erroneously entered light fixture. Maybe it's something, someone accidentally, in my case, I have prone to accidentally dragging something on. You can check for accidentally placed fixtures through your schedule. That was a perfect example. But look at this. You're getting your count. You're getting all of those things at one time.
Well, I think one of the things, because I started looking at the schedule that I'd be interested in other people's viewpoint, is that, again, formatting aside from our schedule, because we obviously like to make it look better, what database information is missing? So, for instance, the two that I already have is an ordering code for the lamp, as well as a lot of times we have electrical location for our devices. So, is it a remote ballast? Is it a remote power supply? Is it an integral ballast? Is it an integral power supply? Those have been the two that I've not seen in the schedule. So I guess, are there other just database information type things that we should have in here that we don't see?
That's a good point, yeah. So there is a ballast column, but...
which I think that would be more if we wanted a specific...
Oh, got it.
So again, so it's almost like where we have the lamp quantity, that's great, we need that. We then need a lamp ordering code.
Cool.
Same thing for ballast, so the ballast... Do we need a ballast quantity?
Can I ask
What's in
the
the notes for the
question?
Yeah,
This?
but a ballast
I have
location.
529 fixtures, which seems like there's mistakes, like perhaps July fixtures and proper fixtures. And
Very
how would
possibly.
I figure that out?
Yeah. So there isn't like a way to figure out
Because this alarm bell goes off in my head. There's no way that I have 529 fixtures in here.
Let's do a quick test. Go out to a 3D view. This is always a good thing to do. Go out to a 3D view just by hitting the little house at the top of the screen. And you can see immediately all the native fixtures that you have drawn. When you're arraying out those fixtures, it's surprising how quickly.
What if you put them on different floors?
I think
Yeah.
it should have been 288, I think.
Yeah, you may have copied to the same place accidentally.
So I think I might have pieced it twice. And how would I do something? Because that's obvious. That would drastically kind of mess things up.
Right.
as well.
You know, our yeah, definitely like that.
Yeah, this is not 500 fixtures. So
Okay.
I think you
it's
might just have to go to a place and delete one, see if there's still one there.
Yeah, let me check this really fast. The make sure we're not pulling from the linked file too. Okay, we're not.
Yeah, there. If you click on one, try to delete it.
click on one thing.
Oh, from that video, yeah. Maybe within that group, though.
That's a good point. There could be multiple.
there's one.
Well, there's
Lots
I
of
have
multiple.
2 of
Okay.
everything. Awesome.
So, because it is so easy to copy from level to level, if you run into a mistake like that, I would recommend deleting the offending levels or the areas where you don't have it right. Make sure you get the one floor plate correct again. Or copy
you
that
just
around.
you would just completely delete.
I would
all
completely
the
do it. And
floors?
actually go back to a 3D view. The easiest way to do that, everyone, is in a 3D view. Check this out. Go to your little house view, and there's this view cube. I would go to a front view, and watch this. Just draw a window around all of your other levels. See that? Draw a window around all the upper levels, leaving the one level that you're working on. Just hit delete, just to be safe. You go back, and then you can see floor plate. You know, fixture schedule. Should we talk about the data side of this? let's add those. I'll show you how to add a custom parameter right now because it's extraordinarily customizable.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
In our standards template, have we set up the parameters? Have we standardized that?
We have this schedule. It's nice because it automatically starts filling itself out as the fixtures are placed. So this is a standard, those columns really in the schedule, like the lamp quantity, ballast, things like that, that's actually custom to HLB's template. And it's a custom parameter, and if we want to add things like the ballast code, we can add that right now on the fly, and then we'll put it in the template.
Yeah, so what I'm curious about is whether we should make it like a separate quick work group at some point soon to determine what should be in that standard template.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that would be critical. The good news is that if consensus cannot be found immediately, next week or 2 or 3 as new projects are starting, you can always update this schedule from that central point. Once there is a consensus, we can say on an active project, say Monday, starting this week, say, oh, I need to make this new schedule. I need to make the old schedule match the new version, and it will update automatically.
But so, for instance, with the ballast thing, would that's something that we'd have to change within each of the fixture families itself to carry that?
Every project carries its own series of parameters. You can attach a piece of data to any model group. So pieces of furniture, we could say, this particular project, there's something funny about it, that it needs to know lead. Lead is a great one for data pieces. What lead credit could this particularly could it contribute to? So we can, on the fly, we can say, we're an interior designer, we do lots of interior layouts, and our furniture needs to contribute to a lead credit. We're going to suddenly add that data parameter to every piece of furniture. So that as a piece of furniture is utilized throughout the project, it carries a piece of data. It can be filled in manually for what credit does it apply to. And same, we can do that for lighting fixtures. We can just say every lighting fixture in this project needs to carry the ballast code with it. And you can do that fairly quickly. You don't need to go into the lighting family.
Okay. Are there any things that we would need to, I guess, go into the lighting families to
Absolutely.
really do?
The IES file, that would need to be done.
We talked about that.
That's specific to each family.
It's specific to each family and requires you going outside of the project that you're working in or the template that you're working in. It requires you going into each one. It's more time consuming and a little harder.
Right, which we had already talked about making it so that we can add IES files to all of our stuff, which I think we've done.
Yeah. That's the only thing. So when you're doing a custom IES file, you'd have to go externally into the family. But other than that, there's no need to go into the family and set up a shared parameter.
Okay. But pretty much if we decide that our template wants to have the ballast info, the lamp ordering code,
Correct.
that we change in the template itself. And for future projects,
You got it.
it's there.
It's there. Yeah. Exactly.
Do you think would you say conceptually it's better to have too many categories, or do we need to find the right happy medium?
I'd say have too many, and then you can always remove them. If the idea is that we are going to export out to Excel anyway, because it just ultimately will look better for formatting, it has, the formatting controls probably won't be satisfactory within Revit.
And you can't hide columns
You actually can.
if there's not data that we want.
Right.
You can.
You can hide them.
So the count, for instance, if we don't want to show, if the contractor's going to be looking at it, we don't want them to see a count.
Correct.
We can hide.
We can hide it.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
we can hide
tailor
it.
more towards the
I
project.
know there's someone in our LA office has done a list of what parameters we should have.
Cool.
And she's very, very thorough, so I think it's probably 30 parameters.
Oh, wow.
So we may want to edit that down, but at least it's a place to start from.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's a great idea. I'll show you what's going on under the hood so you can see what you can pick from, maybe, and then you can see what you can add. In a schedule, the available fields.
Before we move on,
Yeah.
we could have a couple different schedules though too.
Oh, absolutely. You could duplicate this schedule. You could call it Brandon's special lighting fixture schedule that no one else can use. You know, you can do whatever you want to do, and you can have as many.
I'll steal off your computer using unauthorized access.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Why would you want to have multiple schedules?
Well, I'm just saying maybe we want one that's going to show more information and one that just shows.
You mean with like columns
True.
hidden?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. It's not even so much columns hidden. It's choosing what columns you want to be shown. So for lighting fixtures, this is a good way of looking at it. These are all the available fields or available parameters that a lighting fixture carries data-wise with it. You know, it's carrying things like one custom piece is control zone, which I added for you all because we're going to be talking about how to set up a control zone schedule. Things like, efficacy and illuminance, all those are available fields that you can pull from. And for your schedule, it's just like in Excel when you are picking and choosing. I believe there's a similar interface for data input. I've been there in Excel before, but you can add columns. And so the scheduled fields that are in this particular schedule, we're saying, okay, type mark, manufacturer, model, those types of things. So quickly we can add a parameter. Let's call this ballast code. And this is a type parameter, right? Because it's going to apply to a certain type of fixture. So we're going to hit type. The discipline, we'll just make it electrical. And ultimately what we're doing here is we're setting up where this piece of data shows up in the properties bar, so it's easily found. Discipline, electrical. Type of parameter, won't let us just do text. We're going to have to take that discipline back to just common. Type of parameter is text. Actually, I don't think we could. Units are very important to Revit. That's one problem with parameters here, is if you try to do more parameter customization, Revit's not good about converting units. So if you're trying to do LPD, it's very hard. You have to make sure you have the right units. I have one set up already for you that's calculating this. But to try to get watts per square foot and get wattages summed and things like that, you have to just make sure all of the parameters are utilizing the same units. It's not good at converting. For instance, it can't make the conversion from area to volume at all. Even if you know the area times a certain height, it can't do that calculation. So it's in a schedule. So it's particularly frustrating there. So for if you're trying to study your lighting from a volumetric standpoint relative to area, you actually wouldn't be able to make that conversion back and forth. Okay, so that's the reason that the type of parameter is particularly important, and really the discipline. We're just going to make this a text parameter. We're going to group parameter. We can still group it under as being an electrical item, right? Because it's ballasting. Ballasting codes. I'm going to check electrical lighting. We'll hit OK. Okay, so it defaulted to being on the bottom here. We're going to move it up to, I guess, put it under ballasts. And ballast code. Hit OK. Okay, so we had some headers that were grouped, right? We're going to ungroup those headers by, you can't really click in there because you can start to change the text, but just left click and drag through the grouped header, right click, and you can hit ungroup headers. having particular trouble doing just this one. Group headers. If you want to regroup headers, you select them with kind of a left drag, and you select all of those columns at one time. Right click, group headers. And I'm a data person. I really, really like this side of Revit. I find it so fascinating. The way that you can manipulate data and you can really choose how you want it to come out. Electrical information. There are other things that you can do in there. We could sort by level. You know, what if you wanted to have your lighting fixture schedule determined by level? And you would maybe want a summation for each level of the number of fixtures that you have. Certainly easy to do. You can go back into the available fields, go to level, add that parameter. I'm going to move it up to the top. Okay? I'm going to hit OK. And it shows the level that we're on. I'm going to tab back over. Did everyone see that quick move I did to grab that group? Because I'm going to copy now to those levels. I had erased my arrays up to those other levels. Now I'm going to copy them back up. I can select one, right click, select all instances visible in view, gets them all. Control C that, and then modify tab, paste, align the selected levels, grab all of those again, shift, hit OK, and we'll paste those to the same place. Where lots of open views are particularly hard.
So we're having separated out by level.
Correct. Yeah, you will. What we need to do is we need to tell it to sort by level. So in the available fields, we have level. We're going to go to sorting grouping here. And this is the thing, you can really start to sort this data however you like. It starts out by doing type mark. We actually would prefer to do it by level and then by type mark. Okay, because first we want the schedule to say, okay, group things by level. Only then secondarily do we do the type mark. Type mark 2, you can do a footer. Let's just do a count and totals. We'll hit OK. Look at that. Totals only. And for the sorting grouping, we'll need grand totals, totals only. There's a lot of manipulation in these schedules. I know I'm moving quickly. I'll show you here in just a second now. Formatting, count, calculate totals. Is this helpful? Yeah.
Yeah. But it doesn't, well, I'll wait till the actual room. Because the LPD stuff, like by room, would be helpful, but that's probably more dependent on what the architect sets up and if they show rooms.
It is, yes. And actually, we're going to run through a quick example on that too. The I'll give my caveat with that one when we. That sorting grouping parameter, or the way that you sort and group a schedule, there are so many possibilities. Obviously, it's really really endless. Does this help give you a window into, though, the data side, maybe a bit more? And seeing the parameters that are being pulled by lighting fixtures, and then also simply you can just add a piece of data to a model category quickly. We did it through a schedule. Because that was a lighting fixture schedule, that's why we're able to do this. If you go back out to our drawing area, edit group, and you go select any one of these light fixtures, and you hit edit type, look at this. Ballast count will be now, or ballast code will be available. There it is, ballast code. Remember we added that parameter through a schedule? We've just added it, and it was automatically added to light fixtures in the project. So every light fixture will carry that piece of data with it. So you found like doing a footer, and yeah, so there's the, yeah, cool. Yeah, you can hide. So, oh, here, I'll show you how to hide a column in case you don't want it. Finish. If you go into, when I quickly go to those tabs, remember we have the available fields, sorting, grouping, formatting, and appearance. You can also quickly edit any one of those particular tabs from the properties bar. If I go into formatting, one thing I did very quickly that you may not have seen is I hit formatting, count, and I did a checkbox for calculate totals. Okay? Like we said a moment ago, is what if we don't want the contractor to see calculated totals? We can check this hidden field, and it's still being calculated, but it just doesn't show up in the schedule. Alternatively, you can just say, maybe I don't want count to show up at all. I'll just remove that out. Remove that piece of data from the schedule so that you don't have to include it if you're worried about that information being found. One thing though, will the contractor ever get your file?
No, I'm thinking of if we're able to make this work, that this is our schedule that we're then printing and including in our spec book.
Yeah, right.
It's those type of things. Just,
gotcha.
You know, what information are we actually giving, what's necessary and what's not? And so that would be one thing we don't usually share quantity.
This is an interesting point. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, if this does become your formatting, yeah, if you can format it.
I mean, I don't think it's there yet. Maybe it is in the future at some point.
The product's been around for 10 years, and they haven't done anything to help schedules in their formatting.
But even so, this could be useful going from here to Excel for an electrical engineer, which again, we don't usually format because they'll put it directly on their drawings.
Yep.
We again wouldn't want to put counts with that.
Right.
Just because the electrical engineer may mistakenly put the counts on the drawing, and then that's it.
Yeah, you definitely want to show it. So a process that you may want to use is you're in the schedule, R pull down, export, reports, schedule. You export the schedule. It defaults to being a text file, and that's the only way that you can export it. But that's okay. We'll do HLB lighting fixture schedule.txt. We'll hit save. It's going to be exporting column headers, multiple rows, yada yada. That's fine. One problem is that the units aren't respected in this, and so if you have a summation of wattages or things like that, it's not going to work when you bring it into Excel. I'll open up a session of Excel just to show everyone how this works. interconnections that way. Let me just make sure this is working properly before I check to everyone. Okay. I'm going to undo that just so I can show everyone how that works. Okay. In a blank workbook in Excel, you can just follow this quickly. It's nice. Everyone has Office 2010, I would imagine. Go with.
Good.
The Excel 2010 is really nice. Because it comes out as a text file, you'll hit From Text, which is on your Data tab. From Text. Browse to your text file. You'll hit Import. Just accept all the defaults here. I generally just go to Finish and then hit OK. This is how it comes in, and you can start to format this however you need. The nice thing is that you can come back in here and you can manually refresh this data. So if your schedule is constantly changing, just ask your people to do a quick, or you yourself go do a quick export. This data will automatically update, which is nice.
But will all of our formatting be lost?
It is not.
What happens if you add stuff that's added? It'll add.
You're okay. No, you're okay. As long as I believe that you cannot add a column in the middle. I think that this data zone needs to be preserved from there to there.
You end up losing before. If you like merge cells,
Yes.
you'll end up losing them.
You'll lose. Okay, you'll lose it at that point. So
One of the things that, one of my takeaways from the work that the previous person that we had that was sort of a Revit specialist in LA, one of the things that he was experimenting with was linking Revit to database and then having the database link to Excel.
oh, got it.
So that it was a constantly updated link, and that you wouldn't have to do a manual export, that when you make the change in Revit, it syncs with the database and then it
Gotcha.
syncs with the Excel spreadsheet. So that would be like an advanced topic we would maybe cover down the line.
I don't have any experience with that actually so far. I would really like to know more about it. I personally have not done it.
Yeah, no, in Revit, I believe you could link to a SQL database or an Access database or whatever. I forget. I have to look back and see how that goes.
Yeah, let me know how he was doing that. It was a constant thing going on in the background.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
great.
there's I know, I mean, this is a while ago, but I know there's a way to link
Okay.
some things to,
Great.
with the schedules, yeah.
Okay.
That's
Great. Without having to export it, it's wonderful.
Yeah, I have to look at my emails from way back, but yeah, I'm pretty sure I can find that.
Yeah, we could run a few tests, but that ultimately, I guess that's the workflow I've used in the past to get schedules out and then reformat them and then updating the data. You just refresh it.
Peter, I have some questions.
Yeah.
When we were talking about hiding columns, if you just click on the top and then do hide, will it hide it from view and export as well?
Yeah, it hides it from view, and I believe it does not export it, but I'm not sure of that.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, we had cost hidden. Or no, I don't know if we had cost hidden. I'm not sure if it hides it from the export.
Okay.
My guess is that it does. But if it shows up in Excel, you'll just have to hide that column there.
Yeah. Okay.
But is this helpful, doing it by level and just gives you a bit more insight into everything? Now, what's not necessarily working, what's this is interesting, is let's say for all of our A1s, don't go into the fixture itself to assign this information, you can, but there's just not a whole lot of reason to. Yeah, let's just say we enter it all from this place. Okay, it's going to change all of the A1s. You can do all of the model information right from there. Lamp quantities, ballasts, mounting, drag all of these out. Okay. So you can add all this information very quickly. Yeah, you're getting headers and footers. I like the fact that everyone looks like they're manipulating the information fairly well in their schedules. Be able to get footers and headers and all those good things. Summation. Cool. And that's all coming from sorting and grouping. That's the thing that's giving you your headers, your footers. This electrical data, that does come from the light fixture itself. So that's something that you could go in and take care of right now. That group comes in as 0. Because it must be entered. My apologies. Actually, I have to go externally. There it is. That's one thing to note, is that as you get a specific fixture, you may have to go into the family editor and update that.
Can I ask a question? Kind of has to do with schedules, but not.
Yeah.
I, in the schedule, ended up with 2 level 2s. Because I think at one point I made a level 2 called 8/8 ceiling and then a level 2 called dependence.
Oh, okay, great.
Why?
Yeah.
Why do I have 2 level 2s?
2 level 2s.
The actual level 2 of the given ceiling, which is level 2.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. So that's one thing. If you want to go in and let me just go see if we can go to. Do you have a section here? Either one, any one where we can just go in and zoom into one of your levels and see. Okay, here we go. You can delete level 2 dependence and just hit OK. Yeah, some of the views are being deleted. Anytime you create a view off of that level, it will associate everything with that level. So when you delete the level itself,
Now,
you
did I just
go-
delete fixtures?
there should not be any fixtures missing, although were they hosted to that level?
Probably.
Okay. Yes, so be cautious of that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, they were, that's right, because they were on that work plane that we probably hosted them too. Yeah. So yes, they were. So, so you can very quickly see how you can apply things to very quickly throughout a project. What if we need to make a quick derivation of an existing fixture in a project, but it changes just a little bit, right? We can do that on the fly. Let's take a 2x2 parabolic. Edit group. I'm going to select one of these. Edit type. Watch this. Duplicate. Duplicate. Ah, you can't do it in editor mode. Sorry about that. That's all. LF. I need to start using that one. Based on work plan. So mine, of course, are not showing up either there. So we're going to go to that view. Go to view. Okay. Let's do an HLB. Okay. My apologies. We needed to do this externally of the group. Take an existing 2x2, you just may have to pull one in. And let's say we have just a derivation off that, slight model change. Something like that, maybe a manufacturer or model. We hit duplicate, and immediately it's a 2x2. Maybe we want to be specific about this. Why would there be some reason you would need a different? Let's just say MFR change. Okay. And I'm going to make this type mark, you know, A1.1, or maybe you want to make it an A4. Anything that you will need it to be. Delete that, go back into one of my groups. And now that I'm in my group, it is immediately available. That 2x2 MFR change is available. Hit finish. There we are. It's coming in just underneath. So I just made a quick copy. Maybe if there was a slight derivation, you can duplicate it right there.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about the process of, to Brandon's point early on about the naming, because it'd be beneficial to have F3, for instance,
Yeah.
easily viewable. I think it's great that we have the fixtures already in our template, but I'm wondering if once you start a project, it almost becomes project specific, where we start naming them F1.
Yeah.
Start naming them F2.
I would agree. It's maybe not a bad way to go, and that's fairly easy to do.
Because we would just hit duplicate at the beginning, name it.
Name what you want. I mean, I think yeah, from day one, we don't
Yeah.
touch the fixtures. We always start with duplicating.
Right.
Name it what you want, Because it is, then as I go to level 3, and I know we did a markup, I need to place an F1, I can then find in there, I don't need to try and remember that F1 was a 6-inch compact fluorescent wall washer. I can find a name that says F1.
Yep, correct. I think that's a great way to go. Yep. A few ways you can do it. You can rename.
Could we, can we pick what categories these sort under?
What categories
Like,
they
see,
sort
you
of...
know, like in the views, we can select where we want it to sort, right? Somehow there's something that dictates right now that this fixture is under HLB ceiling.
I wish... Yeah, we can't
So
get
yeah,
that.
so if we went through and renamed this one
But
as
had,
F1,
but
Yes.
had
a
a
running list.
had a thing that's like HLB, you know, project fixtures, something like that.
I wish we could add a sorting. We can't add a sorting parameter to the
So it
family
has
area.
to be the main, the original family when you
Yep.
start the fixture.
Well, there's a few ways you can do it. You could do, you can either name a type under the initial heading. So we could rename that duplicated one to F2 or F1, or we could rename the whole recessed parabolic troffer family F2.
Well, maybe that's where we create that duplicate of the entire family at the beginning and say,
Yep.
that's now called the F2 series. Because I know that a lot of times we'll operate, if we have a 32 watt CFL as F2, but we then needed a 42, but it's everything else is the same, that would become F2A.
But so you would rename this
So
whole
duplicate
family?
that entire thing.
But what happens like if we have a couple different, you know, like let's just say we have a couple different linear pendants that are different styles. They are that would all be F2s.
No, but I think in duplicating it, all of those become an F2. Then if you have an F4 that also needs that, we'd still have that original start
Yeah.
that you could then create F4. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I have the answer right now. You gotta play with it, but
Yeah.
somehow naming so that
It's easily found.
series is in there.
I've found it appears that it's easiest when you duplicate under the original heading. I mean, that's what I've heard other folks saying is that you duplicate under, so HL, let's say our recessed parabolic troffer, your starting point, you duplicate within that and then name that F1, F2, F3. The bad
Are we
part,
debating about making a separate folder for these fixtures?
Well, we
kind of,
Yeah,
Cameron, yeah.
You can't make a new tab. It's like F1 parabolic, F2 downright.
Correct. Yeah. So it's a double-edged sword. I don't think there's a wrong way though. I mean that's the thing. It's a little consequence to choose one path or the other. If your goal is to be able to sort it and see it easily here.
So this is what I mean. This kind of brought me to a question that I had yesterday that I started thinking in my head because when I originally documented, we had no symbols. So that meant to me I went to manufacturers and just got something that was close. So in terms of our project organization, I had a separate folder that said fixture families. And I then loaded each of those individually into our project. And in that case, I was able to, that's exactly what I did, I renamed it F2. So that I didn't have all of these in a project, I had only what I had used.
Yep.
So,
Not a bad way to go.
I mean, right now we don't have any of these fixtures as families, they're all embedded in the template.
Embedded in template. There, I have a freestanding library.
So this
Some
would
that
kind
works
of be
there.
like
So
how we have a freestanding library. You can import your block and CAD if you want to individually, or you can go to the pull down menu.
Yeah, I'm thinking that it may be better that our template has none of these fixtures in. That our office, and hopefully eventually when we have a centralized location, has the Revit HLB library that then we each know If you need, we have a folder structure in place that if you need a recessed 6-inch, to be honest, we actually have a folder structure in place in LA that we started a while ago for Revit fixtures. I think it's way too detailed and complex, but it can be pared down so that we know if we're looking for a 1x4 indirect troffer, you can go to this folder and load it in and then rename it.
I mean, we can use very similar to how they're already named, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think the naming convention so far from what I've seen is great.
Cool.
So it may just be if we pull that external to the template, then
Yeah.
have more of that order.
Load them in as you need them. Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The other thing too is you can always. Sure, you can start it, and this is actually something we should talk about from a management standpoint of your project. If you get going and you realize you don't need everything, or you just need to clean up every once in a while, off the Manage tab, there's a Purge Unused. Yeah, certainly.
But you will lose anything you haven't used. So in this case, all those
Yeah.
fixtures that we haven't used will go away.
Yep. You can, normally the way I do it, Purge Unused, is I start out by doing check none. So it starts off checking nothing. Yeah, isn't that cool?
I gotcha.
So you start off by doing check none, and you can start to rid yourself of the ones you know you won't need. You can start off that way.
Or just get rid of all the other stuff besides landing fixtures.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And actually, your template's as light as it can be. You have to keep a certain number of system families in there because it's MEP maintains. You have to keep some pipes and you have to keep some mechanical equipment. And
But now, if we were to purge it, we could get rid of those.
no, you still can. I wish
it's
you
always
could.
in there.
Yeah, it's forever embedded in there, and they call it a basic system family that you just don't have any control over. Disappointing, because I would love to get rid of so much of that other information that you just don't need. I would love to be able to sort the families. I think everyone's desiring this need to sort families, like you can sort views. Can't do it. Basically, what it comes down to is view. I'll show you what's happening under the hood. View, user interface, browser organization. 2 tabs, views and sheets. We made a custom parameter for you that's called by view usage. That's saying if it's documentation or export or just a design view. You can also, you could rename that if you wanted to, but you edit that, and ultimately it's grouping all views by view usage. That's why you see when you make a new view, you get the question mark. It doesn't know what the view usage is. You change it, and automatically it groups. So that's how that's working under the hood. Same thing is happening for sheets. Sheet type, whether it's a presentation sheet. So you can manipulate this and change it to be whatever you want it to be. Unfortunately, you can see browser organization only gives you views and sheets. I wish they had a 3rd tab for families. So that you could hide and cull that family listing as much as you could, but unfortunately we can't. We did some arrays. I just want to do some other things. Let's do.
We have 9 minutes.
Okay.
I mean, I would also say one of the things in terms of best practice as our team, before sending a package out, similar to CAD, we should be purging.
Yeah.
Because inevitably you get crap in there that you don't need, and to keep our model size down to, obviously try and clean up as much as possible for our clients, we should be purging once it's all said and done. So it's something good to keep in mind.
Let's just jump back to that level 2 plan, because one goal is that I wanted to go through just some 2D documentation stuff, and that we, what is this view? This is reflective ceiling plan level 2. From the annotate tab, there are a lot of really nice things here. Of course, we can tag all lighting fixtures. We've seen how to do that. But let's just talk about some basic annotation. There are 2 different types of lines in Revit. There are detail lines and model lines. Detail lines are 3-dimensional, and they show up in every view. Detail lines are view specific and they only show up in one view. Okay? One other thing is, once you get into families, you'll see symbolic lines. Symbolic lines show up only in plan or elevation or the view that they were created in. Just say, let's say for now, symbolic lines are like annotation detail lines. Detail lines are very nice and easy to utilize. You consider if like you want to do center lines on fixtures to show that maybe there's alignment there. You can do DL as the shortcut. Detail line. Let's hit save. Detail line. You start the command, it's basically like drawing lines. Before you get going now, you have the opportunity to change the line type. Okay? And by the way, even before you're drawing the line type, there's different types of shapes you can draw by default. Splines and arcs and lines. We're going to use straight line segments for now. Line style. I'm just going to change this to a center line. You draw it just like you would any line in AutoCAD. I'm going to scale to 1/8 so I can see a little bit better. Select all my fixture tags. Move those up.
Are you currently in documentation?
I think I am. Yeah, I lost track of where I am.
Should we be in the documentation page?
I would say ultimately for all of your text and tagging and things like that, do as much as you can in a documentation view. So like here for a center line that we may want to do a DI dimension. Check this out. You can select center lines of fixtures. Drop that dimension out there. And then I'm going to do alignment, center line of fixture to that center line I just drew. CO, multiple, 6 feet over. You know, so if you're on a gypped ceiling and you're wanting to space these out, you could do that.
And you had mentioned DL. What's the difference between that and if you enter LI for lines? Is there any?
No.
That's the same
exact
Because I
thing.
use the LI a lot for drawing construction lines one.
You got it. That is so helpful, isn't it? Yeah, I use them all the time. If you go to the Architect tab, you can do a model line, and that's a 3-dimensional line. And that's going to show up in each and every view, and everywhere and all the time. It's not like a reference plane. It's not defining a plane, but it is 3-dimensional. Okay, so a lot of times I use these detail lines, and if you remember one thing in the drawing area that you like, and you like the way it looks, you can right-click and do a Create Similar. We can copy multiple. There you go, if you want to do a quick layout grid. You could even align your light fixtures to this detail line grid once you get it just the way you like it. Check this out too. If we dimension off of, say, wall face we go. I'm going to give a dimension somehow that we're locating this light group. Moving 1 1/8 inches. Look at that input really fast. Moving the whole group down. I grabbed the whole group. I did a crossing window just like you would in AutoCAD. And I did MV. MV for move. And then I left click to set my base point, and then I put the cursor in the direction that I wanted to move. And we should actually run through that quick move command. You put the cursor in the direction you want to go, and then you type in that distance that you wanted to move, and everything shifts over. So we went through yesterday about how to manipulate a dimension. We can double click on it. We can add a prefix. Let's just do a VIF as a under, below. May want to do a plus or minus. So dimensions can't be added to those groups, but you could certainly add the fixture tag and the detail lines, those like layout lines. You could add those to a group and link that all in if you wanted to. Yep.
Okay.
And, you know,
I think unless there's anything immediate pertaining to this, I think lunch is here.
Let's do it.
So I think we've got a half an hour here if we want to take a deep breath from
Can
the
you
wall.
now do the last 7 minutes with me?
Yeah, sure.
Everything.
Absolutely. Text. Text. Dimensions are straightforward, but we just need to do basic text off of your annotate tab. There's a variety of text types. So text. It may not be as critical for you, but the types of leaders that you're using. I like to do 2 segments. Let's just say we're pointing to something, and you have a justification, left, right, where the leader's coming from. Let's point to. We'll just point to one of these fixtures for some reason. I don't know why we would need to note this particular one. But so you left click to start the leader, left click to give the elbow, then you left click a third time to start the text area or where you're typing. You leave notes to each other in here. It's probably not a great idea to. And do the design views, you can leave notes to each other using text because that doesn't show up on a sheet, right? That's actually something we commonly do. You need to leave notes to another team member. You put it in the design drawing and you just leave it there so someone can find it. You can change it to being red so someone can see it. You can do markups even in the software.
If you do it in documentation,
it'll show up in the sheet. So that's the other nice thing about having design views. Those are working views that never are outputted.
Well, I mean, technically, a design view could be out.
Could be outputted. Yeah, exactly.
Is there a way to change the arrowhead and something like that?
There is. So that's some of the customization here. Select that text, hit edit type, and that's where you go in. The arrowheads that are available, generally a bunch of different kinds here. Let's talk about some of the other controls that are here. First of all, the color. The line weight is fairly standard. Don't mess with this. Line weight, there's 16 line weights in Revit, 1 being the lightest, 16 being the heaviest. Generally just leave this at 1. The background, whether or not it's transparent or if it is opaque, if you click on transparent, an opaque background I find sometimes semi-annoying with text because if you have floor patterns or ceiling patterns, you'll see a big white box around the text. I normally leave it transparent. You can say whether or not to show the border. Then of course, simple things like the font, the text size, the tab size, and the width factor. If you want to make a new text type, you would just hit duplicate. Right? I'll call this Peter markup text. Look at this. I'm going to make it bright red. I'm going to make the text size 1/2 inch tall so it's very visible. I'll hit OK. And maybe I'll change the orientation. It doesn't work as well as mText. Like in AutoCAD, you double click in there. There it is. So you could do quick markups to other people within the office, questions, reminders to yourself. It works like a post-it note. You know. I think that's it. Title. Detailing. We haven't done any detailing yet, but we can jump to that. Height parameters. Fixture schedule, energy flexibility of HLB families. Some fixtures. How are we locking? Okay, you know what? Let's while we're eating, let's just make sure we have covered everything because in some ways we caught up where we were yesterday and we started over to some degree, but
we've also jumped ahead in some sense. And
yeah, I want to make sure we're answering everything.
Yeah,
it's there. Is this stuff helpful? The documentation side of things.
I mean, this is what we need.
The meat.
It's the setup. It's the setup and the actual.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that was really thanks for that finding the discipline. That was good, good hunting and pecking, and that was exactly what it needed to. I still would have been looking for it, so thank you.
Just an update on what I was mentioning before about the database.
Yes.
It's actually an add-in to Revit,
okay.
And it's called the Revit DB Link.
Okay.
Add-in. And basically the description is the Autodesk Revit DB Link tool allows you to maintain a relationship between a Revit DB Link project and a Microsoft Access, Excel, or ODBC database.
Oh, fantastic.
You can use Autodesk Revit DB Link to export Revit DB Link project data to the database, make changes to the data, and import it back into the project. The database displays Revit project information to a table view that you can edit before import.
Cool.
This table view also allows you to create Revit shared parameters, which adds new fields for those parameters in the related tables. Any change made to these new fields within the database updates Revit shared parameters upon future imports.
Wow. So that's helpful. And that's a free add-in.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch of cool add-ins if you're on subscription.
Yesterday, yeah.
We'll need the one for spaces as well, and I don't know if you can seek that out and download it now.
I could probably get it. Yeah.
There's an add-in for. We're going to do spaces later this afternoon because I really want you to be able to do your LPDs.
Yeah.
With this, I really would like you to start being able to do some initial illumination calculations in here.
What about room names and tags? That's something.
Yeah, that's actually coming in through this little add-in feature. Revit MEP uses spaces rather than rooms, and rooms are three-dimensional, but spaces are like three-dimensional. Plus, they carry a lot of added data, like their more so for the mechanical side of things, for heating and cooling loads, the number of people that will be in there, the use type. Cool thing for spaces for you all is that we can set the space type and what the power density budget is for that space type, for that room type. We can do things like the required lumens, or required illuminance, and we can immediately tell if we're meeting that or not. The code, if there's a code required or an optimal, we can set all of that. You're going to see some of those parameters when we.
So it's what I mean, it's RSD report. It's taking our RSD report and translating it into Revit so that we know roughly whether or not we're meeting.
Yeah, it's going to be still rough, but it's a good, quick first series of calculations.
Well, the other thing is obviously that we don't meet energy code in rooms a lot of the time, like bathrooms. I don't think I've met an energy code in bathroom. Just because naturally it's too low. So I mean, we just have to look at that check and balance, but then also have some way of summarizing the entire building and whether or not that falls below kind of the allowed wattage and the allowed used.
Oh, you do a summary for your LPDs?
In essence, there's two ways of going about it. One is a whole building method, where you call the entire building whatever it is, and there you go. We rarely use that. Usually what we use is a space-by-space method.
Okay, cool. That's what this is set up for.
But then at the end of it, all those spaces are interchangeable, so you have your list of spaces. They add together.
That would be the grand total.
Yeah.
Grand
so if you
total.
look at the grand total of all of those spaces allowed, the grand total of all those spaces used, and seeing if we're below.
Perfect.
That's,
Perfect.
that's the big thing.
This is a cool schedule. This is coming. This is actually, I can't say it was me who came up with it. The IES Oregon chapter, or the Oregon chapter of IES, has a really nice guide on doing calculations within Revit, and I would say it was produced 2 years ago. And so it's still very, very current, and they have a good PDF on this. The nice thing is they give some guidelines on how to do this, and I basically generated this. I found it 2 years ago and love it, and I found lots of clients. I think you all will really like it as well, because it's going to give it to you by space. You're going to put in your desired illuminance for that space, and if you're not meeting it, it's going to give you a color.
Yeah.
It's saying, red, you're not there. Yeah. Or if you're going over on your power density for that.
It's just like a conditional formatting.
Conditional formatting, exactly. That's all within the formatting, LPD mismatch, in this case, conditional format. Yeah, and if it's less than or equal to a certain amount, it's pretty cool.
Conditional formatting, it brings out the nerd in me for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So anyway, that will be fun. So we'll run through that this afternoon. But